Since the beginning of Magic the Gathering, lands have been important. They give us resources to cast spells. They set the tone. They are foundation for lore that has been built up over the last 30 years. Non-basic lands started off really good, with the 9 dual lands printed in Alpha, excluding the Volcanic Island, which they forgot and is a story for another time. There have been 859 lands printed in Magic the Gathering over the years, but it turns out that some of them are pretty bad, and we're going to get into the 10 worst lands starting now with Rainbow VALE at number 10. It's a 5-color land with a gigantic drawback that you have to give it away at the end of your turn. This might make sense if you're running a Zadru deck, but otherwise it's a terrible card. And even in a Zadru deck, I'm not sure it's all that great. Next up we have NOMAD Stadium. It's a pain land that's a single color that just gives you pain. The only way it might make sense is if you're running a Darien deck, that way you can get some value out of it. But again, it's another stretch and just a really bad land. Next up we have banned lands, straight out of Legends. These things don't make a lot of sense to me and are quite baffling. Why are these printed in the same set as one of the most powerful lands, Tabernacle? The only way I can make sense of this is maybe you could use it to ban some legends together that you maybe need an attack trigger to go off, but you still need to protect them as your commander, like Godo. But otherwise, I don't really see these making a lot of sense at all, and they're just terrible. Next up, we have WINTERMOON MESA, which is just comically bad. It comes into play tapped. It's only colorless mana, and you have to sacrifice it to get its effect, which isn't even that great to tap 2 target lands. Next up, we have Forsaken City, which is a 5-color land, but a severe drawback. You have to exile cards from your hand. That's right, exile, not dump into your graveyard, making this thing almost completely worthless. You might be able to figure out some sort of way to use it with Eternal Scourge or one of these exile creatures, but otherwise, I mean, nobody's going to play this. And we're on to the top 5 worst with Untodaike the Cloud Keeper. Some people have tried to make this work with a Captain Sisse deck, but it just doesn't work. Being able to only spend the mana on a certain type of card is very restrictive, and it comes into play tapped, and it's just not a very good land at all. And at 4, we have the super simple Oasis. This thing doesn't do much of anything. It can prevent 1 damage to any target creature, but I mean, what's that going to do? Just keep a stuffy doll from poking himself? There's not much there. So it's a utility land you should pass on. And now at number 3, we have one of the strangest, baddest cards. It doesn't really make sense. The lore to it is very strange. Tomb of URAMI. It is a pain land if you don't control ogres. You have to sacrifice all your lands for a 5/5 flyer demon spirit. So it's out of Kamigawa, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why would you sacrifice your lands for something that's slightly better than a Sarah Angel? And where did the ogres come in? I guess you have to do a little bit of reading, but it's very strange and doesn't make any sense, and definitely deserves one of these top spots on the worst lands in Magic the Gathering. Now this next one takes the theme a little too far. At number 2, RHYSTIC Cave is nowhere near as good as RHYSTIC Study. It gives all of the other players that you're playing with the chance to just nullify it completely if they have any mana open at all, which they will do. So this can just be a dead land drop for you all game unless you happen to find a table that's tapped out. It's definitely earned its spot on this list. With 859 lands out there, you can definitely find some bad lands. It was tough making this top 10 list, and there are definitely some inclusions in here that we considered, but we're pretty happy with the outcome. And at number 1, the worst land ever printed is Sorrow's Path. I'll give you a second to reread it. This isn't an exchange between you and another player. This is exchanging the opponent's 2 blocking creatures, which is just terribly bad. I mean, 99 times this won't even matter. You won't end up in a situation like this, and it's going to do damage to you and all the creatures you control. This thing is just never seen play. If anybody plays this in your decks, congrats, you're playing on hard mode here. The art is also kind of dumb, but I mean, you can't blame the guy. Look what he was working with when they showed him the text for the card. This is just an all-out ridiculous card, and it's kind of an embarrassment to all lands out there everywhere. Thanks for following along. This is Sean from Compleat Magic. This is the part where I'm supposed to tell you to subscribe, but I'd rather just tell you that we give away all of the cards that we pull on this channel. Go check out the pinned video up at the top of our channel page to see how you can get in on our free booster battles. All of our subscribers, our completionists out there, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.